Good evening. Welcome. Following school's unrest, I thought that I should say something. I work with young people, and so I have an opinion that I think is well informed. The thesis of my video is that parenting failure is burning our schools. I think this is uncomfortable truth that I think we don't want to discuss, but we must discuss. Welcome. Right now, anytime you could hear news of a dormitory has burned, a classroom has been destroyed, millions of shillings have disappeared overnight, and the most immediately the debate begins. What was it about? Poor food, overcrowding, strict rules, exams, administration, government failure. All those things may matter, but there is a deeper question we rarely ask. Why are students increasingly responding to frustration with distraction? Why has arson become an acceptable form of protest for some young people? Why do disagreements that once led to complaints now lead to burned buildings? Those are questions we should be asking because they force us to look beyond immediate grievance and examine the nature of unrest that we see in schools and the character of those who are engaged in it. Many of the frustrations students complain about today are not new. They have been with us since independence. In fact, things are much better right now. Congested dormitories are not new. Schools' rules are not new. Examinations, that's the purpose of school, is not new. Boarding schools are not new. In fact, many of these conditions have existed for so long. Our grandparents who went to school, they went through this condition. Our parents, and now the children today. Yet for decades, we did not witness the kind of unrest we see today. We did not see frequent nationwide waves of school arson. We did not see students routinely burning dormitories. We certainly did not see students locking up their colleagues in rooms and setting them on fire. So, if the conditions are largely the same, what has changed? The answer cannot be simply poor facilities. Poor facilities have always existed. The answer cannot simply be strict rules. Strict rules have always existed. In fact, any formal institution has to have strict rules. The answer cannot be simply examinations. We go to school so that we can learn and get tested. Examination has always existed. Something else has changed. And that thing is what we need to look at it and diagnose it clearly. I believe the biggest change has been the gradual erosion of discipline, resilience, and personal responsibility among many young people. And if we are not honest about where those qualities are first learned, we must eventually talk about parenting. If we are honest, where do kids learn discipline, resilience, personal responsibility, delayed gratification? Then we must talk about parenting before anything else. Not because parents are responsible for everything, but because parents are responsible for the foundations. Parenting is the first school every child attends, long before teachers in school show up, long before principals, long before government. The children are with the parents. A child who grows up believing every inconvenience is an injustice will struggle when reality imposes limits, and we live in a reality of constraints. A child who never hears the word no at home, when he struggles, when the institutions begin to impose rules, they will crack. A child who has been protected from every consequence will struggle when confronted by responsibility. A child taught that authority exists only when it's convenient may reject authority altogether when frustration arises. Schools do not create character from nothing. They build upon what already exists. When that foundation of what already exists that should have been created at home is weak, schools inherit problems they did not create. Parents teach something that's more important than academic performance. They teach kids to have character. They teach kids patience, self control, delayed gratification, respect for other people. And they teach kids how to disagree without becoming destructive. Parents teach kids how to handle disappointments without resorting to chaos. These lessons matter because life is full of frustration. No institution can eliminate these things. No government can eliminate these things. No school can eliminate them. The question is how people respond to frustrations when they arrive. The question is how do children respond to frustrations when frustrations arrive? Who should have equipped them to on how to respond to frustrations? That's the role of the parent. Now, some will argue that schools are overcrowded, that facilities are inadequate, that counseling services are limited, that communication channels are weak. All of that may be true, but none of those factors adequately explain the scale and the nature of modern school unrest. Because those factors are not new. They have existed for generations. Yet the frequency, intensity, brutality of some of recent incidents are new. That's the fact that demands explanation. Consider what's being normalized. Students are burning dormitories. Students are destroying classrooms. Students are vandalizing property worth millions. Students are endangering the lives of fellow students. These are not ordinary acts of protest. They are acts of profound indiscipline. A grievance may explain anger. It does not explain arson. It does not explain attempted murder. Something must happen between frustration and the action that lead to arson and murder. That something is character. That character has been destroyed because of indiscipline. The discipline should have been developed at home. That's why I believe indiscipline is a critical multiplier. Poor conditions may create dissatisfaction, but dissatisfaction alone does not produce distraction. Millions of people live with dissatisfaction every day. What determines the outcome is whether the individual possesses the discipline and self-control to respond constructively. When discipline weakens, ordinary frustrations become combustible. When discipline weakens, minor grievances become crises. When discipline weakens, distraction begins to appear acceptable. This does not mean schools bear no responsibility. Schools should improve facilities where possible. They should strengthen counseling. They should create better grievance mechanisms. They should communicate more effectively with students. Good leadership matters. Good administration matters. Good learning environment matters. But none of these can substitute for character formation, which should happen at home. And character formation belongs or is supposed to happen long before the child enters classroom. Parents, therefore, must become more than providers of school fees, more than purchasers of uniform, more than financiers of education. They must become teachers of discipline, responsibility, resilience, respect, accountability, delayed gratification. Because no amount of infrastructure can compensate for the absence of self-control and discipline. No policy can replace character. No dormitory design can replace discipline. At its heart, school unrest is not primarily a facilities problem. Many of the facilities problem are old. It's not primarily examination problem. Examination is an old something in school. It's not primarily boarding school problem. Boarding school has not changed. The factor that has changed most dramatically is the decline in discipline and the weakening of institutions that once cultivated it. And the first of those institutions is the family. The deepest lesson, therefore, is this: buildings do not burn themselves, dormitories do not ignite themselves, students do not lock fellow students in rooms by accident. Before these acts occur, something has already gone wrong in the formation of the character. And until we are willing to confront the reality honestly, we will continue treating symptoms while ignoring the cause. The uncomfortable truth is that of the conditions blamed for school unrest those conditions have always existed. What has changed now is how students respond to those conditions. And that change points us back to the question of discipline, character, and ultimately parenting. And that's the end of my video. I hope I've shared something that gets you thinking about school unrest and what we should do about it.